We're in Daniel chapter 9, and in this one, there's one more sermon in the Daniel sermon series, and that's next week. And so we're kind of getting to the end here, and you got to kind of remember everything that's gone before, all these visions, all these dreams, all this stuff that has happened. Remember we had at the beginning that there was this vision of this Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had where there's this huge image that kind of represented the power of all the nations of the world. And we saw that something that wasn't formed by any human hand came in and hit it and just toppled it. And that ended up being a consistent message throughout Daniel, that all this scary stuff, when it seems like there's these huge kingdoms out in the world that look so big and they look like they're just going to take over everything, that actually they're all just temporary. And that's what we end up seeing here. So now we're here in Daniel chapter 9. We're near the end. And Daniel is no longer living in Babylon, but he is now living in Persia, because Persia came in and destroyed and sacked Babylon. And so now Persia has conquered the people that have conquered Jerusalem, Israel. So essentially Daniel has been conquered twice now. And he's just still there. But he's holding out. Daniel holds out because there's something that he's holding his faith in. And that thing he's holding in is basically this mantra: it's just going to be 3 more years. It's just going to be 3 more years, is what Daniel is saying to himself. That's all that's left, because he's been counting the years, and he believes in what the prophet Jeremiah said. And what the prophet Jeremiah said is right here. It says it right at the beginning of Daniel chapter 9, that in the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood from the scriptures, according to the word of the Lord given to Jeremiah the prophet, that the desolation in Jerusalem would last 70 years. And we think when this is about happening in the story of Daniel, that it's about 67 years. And so Daniel's thinking, I only have to survive this for 3 more years, and God will put everything to rights. Everything is going to go back to the way it was before. Imagine putting yourself into Daniel's shoes. For your entire life almost, you have been in captivity, and you know in just 3 short years, God will put everything back to rights. You would probably be a little excited. You'd be like a kid waiting for Christmas, right? Yeah. Do you guys have any kids that are waiting for Christmas? Some of you are probably a little too excited about Christmas too. There's about, I would say, 4 people on my Facebook feed that consistently remind everyone, pretty much starting in June, that how many days is left till Christmas. You guys say that because you're probably one of those people, or you have people that are just like that, right? Like they're obsessed with it. It's like, come on, guys! Like they just can't wait for Christmas to come. And then you have all the retail stuff, right? You go up to Lowe's, and there's like a weird mix right now when you go into Lowe's, because they have all the Halloween stuff up right next to all the Christmas trees, and it's just all right there together, right? Like. So often, it's kind of like Daniel, we're like, ooh, Christmas is coming, right? And especially for the little ones. My buddy Mark, he's got his little 4-year-old son, and they bought a train that goes around their Christmas tree last year. Apparently, that was a big hit with the 4-year-old crowd. It makes sense. And so he occasionally mentions the train that goes around. He calls it his black train, because it's a little black train. And he's like, can we get that out yet? And he's like, it's not Christmas yet. And so I guess they were in Walmart the other day, and they were walking around. He's like, I want to go over there. And it was all where all the Christmas stuff is, how they have it in the corner section. And he goes back there, and my buddy's like, the 4-year-old wants to see the Christmas lights, wants to see something new. And he walks in there, and he looks around. He's like, this is all Christmas, right? And he's like, listen, I've been good. We need to get that train out, right? Like it was a total like this is a transactional thing. That, listen, Dad, I've been good, have I not? That's debatable. I've been at the house a couple of times, right? Like that's like I've been good. I see Christmas all around me, even though it's September, right? I see Christmas all around me. Let's get that train out. And I think there's some sense of that we feel that by our goodness, it's like, listen, I have been good. I need the good things now. And many times we kind of work in this impatience about like, I've done the good deeds. I've withstood the race. I've done all the good stuff. Let's get the goods out now, right? Like, get me that black Christmas train. I need it. I think we have a hard time waiting a lot of times. And because I think many times we have a hard time waiting is because we build value. We build ourselves into believing that we deserve something because we are good. Because I've done all the right things. I've done everything that you've asked for, God. And we kind of see this with Daniel. We kind of see this idea going on with Daniel because he knows it's just going to be 3 more years. This is what Scripture says. I deserve to come home soon, God. Like, you saw what I did with the lion's den, right? Like, I never bowed down to anything. Like, you saw all these things. So I'm not going to put it on the screen, but I'm going to read this right here. 9 through here. And this is Daniel confessing his sins. And it's not just his sins, but it's the sins of all the people. So I'm going to read this real quick to you. And you're welcome to follow along. It's not in your bulletin. You can pull it up on a book in a Bible if you would like. But I'm just going to read it to you. I want to see how it hits you. Lord, the great and awesome God who keeps his covenant of love with those who love him and keep his commandments. We have sinned and done wrong. We have been wicked and we've rebelled. We have turned away from your commands and laws, and we have not listened to your servants and the prophets, who spoke in your name to our kings, our princes, and our ancestors, and to all the people of the land. Lord, you are righteous, but this day we are covered with shame. The people of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem and all Israel, both near and far, in all the countries where you have scattered us because of our unfaithfulness to you. We and our kings, our princes, and our ancestors, we are all covered with shame, Lord, because we have sinned against you. The Lord our God is merciful and forgiving, even though we've rebelled against him. We have not obeyed the Lord our God or kept the laws he has given us through his servants the prophets. All Israel has transgressed your law and turned away, refusing to obey you. And we skip forward to 17. Now our God, hear the prayers and petitions of your servant. For your sake, Lord, look with favor on your desolate sanctuary. Give ear, our God, and hear. Open your eyes and see the desolation of the city that bears your name. We do not make requests of you because we are righteous, but because of your great mercy. Lord, listen. Lord, forgive us. Lord, hear and act. For your sake, my God, do not delay, because your city and your people bear your name. That's quite the prayer, isn't it? Like that's quite the thing. I'm losing my voice. Let me grab this. That's quite the confession. And when you were listening to that, how was he confessing? Was he confessing just his own sins? No, he's confessing everyone with him, right? It sounds like Isaiah when he says, I'm a man of unclean lips amongst a people of unclean lips. Like, I never know what to do with this cup. There we go. So he is confessing his sins and the sins of his people. He's doing everything right. And like it kind of has this sense that like in 3 short years, Listen up, everyone. Let's live good, righteous lives. And then in 3 short years, we'll be able to get the goods. Listen, it's September. If it's October, I guess now, if we all do good things and be good, maybe Christmas will happen in November. Maybe we can get the train out early. Like it kind of rings of that just a little bit. It's a good prayer. It's a humble prayer, and we must look at it like that. But you kind of see, like, look, we're finally living up to your standards, God. We're finally living up to that. But then this happens. And this is an incredible part of the story. Suddenly the angel Gabriel shows up while Daniel was praying that prayer, that petition, that thing. The angel Gabriel comes up to him and he says, at the beginning of your plea, Daniel, for mercy, a word went out. And I've come to tell what that word is to you, because you are greatly loved. So therefore, consider the word and understand the vision. Now, I'm not going to go straight into the vision. I just want to go in the first part of it. He says, 70 weeks are decreed about your people in the holy city to finish the transgression, to put an end to sin, and to atone for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal both a vision and a prophet, and anoint a most holy place. Let's talk about this. 70 weeks is an unfortunate translation in English. It just is. It actually means 70 times 7. So let me break it down for you as to why it means 70 times 7. How many days are in a week? 7. Hebrew, this is written in Hebrew or Aramaic, one of the two, they're very similar. It doesn't have numbers. So the way they do numbers is like A would be a 1, B would be a 2, C would be a 3. That idea. They do that, and they'll use other things which denote numbers too. So a week here is understood as being 7. And so this is literally correct what it says in Hebrew, but that's kind of not what it's really saying. What he's actually saying is, Daniel, I understand that you think this is going to end in 3 years. But it's not. It's actually going to be more like 70 times 7 years. And think about how that would hit Daniel. What does that mean? It means he's going to die there. He's not going to see to live the coming glory of the new Jerusalem after captivity. It means that no matter how righteous he gets everyone to act and how good everything is, it's still not going to happen. We're still waiting for something greater. Listen, this is a hard sermon to write because this is a hard thing that Daniel is telling us. But I think there's nuggets of truth in it, and there's nuggets of encouragement in it and all through it. I think the nugget of truth is that many times, and we'll say, yeah, I don't do anything because I'm trying to get God on my side or anything like that. But I think a lot of times when we're up against a wall, when we have a bad situation, when something's got us and we don't know what to do anymore, and we're just like, I don't see it around, you begin to think and express and vocalize, why is this happening to me? I did so many good things. Have you ever said anything like that before? I know that happens because I'm in a lot of people's houses when their lives are beginning to crumble all around them. And I hear stuff like that all the time. And I immediately correct it. No, I'm kidding. I I always am just like, I'm sorry. But I've heard so many people, it's like, but I did so much good in my life. Why is this happening to me now? And when you look at Daniel, that's what it sounds like, right? It's what it sounds like. He's like, we're finally being good, God. Can we not get the goodies now? Can we not get the train that goes along with Christmas early? Can we not get the good stuff early? I've been good. Why am I having to face this disaster now? I did so much good stuff in my life. Why is this? Listen, God, I've done all the right things. I've gone to church when I was supposed to. Shoot, I've voted for the right candidate, even though I may not have liked him, right? We focus on the right values, whatever those might happen to be, right? I've lived the exemplary life. I've done everything that I'm supposed to do, sure, within reason, but yeah, I've done all that. And what I worry is that when we begin to feel that way, that we begin to trust ourselves and our own abilities more than trusting in God. And when we feel that way, that we feel like we are deserved to get through all of this with ease, and we feel that Christmas should come early for ourselves, that all we're doing is just reverting back to our inner 4-year-old that wants trains early. And I think Daniel is coming to that. Because the truth is that we're all going to face struggles in our lives. There's going to be times when we're going to be up against a wall and we don't know what the way out is. And we're going to feel like despite how we lived our lives, we're going to feel that God has forgotten us. And that's when I want you to see what Gabriel says to Daniel right before this. He says, right before he goes, at the beginning of your plea, at the beginning of your great and grand display of righteousness, right? Of that humble confession, at the beginning of that plea for mercy, a word went out, and I've come to tell you this because you are greatly loved. And I remember as we were writing this, that was the calming part of this sermon. That sometimes life just becomes too much for us, that we look around and we're trying to figure out why the bad thing is happening to us. What did I do in my past? Did I deserve this now? Type of thing. And we begin to do all that. And when you begin to have those feelings, I think a valid thing we can pull from this is that a word goes out and comes to you, and it says these simple words, that you are loved. That you are loved even when you're in the midst of exile. That you are loved even when you think Christmas should come next week, but it's actually coming more down the line. That you are loved even when all things seem to be crumbling around you. That you are greatly loved. I think that's what this is really telling us. That even if we try to get our lives completely righteous and good, that at the end of the day, we may still struggle. And the thing is this is the same story all throughout the Bible. All throughout the Bible, all these stories of God's people, they have encountered this same idea that when they finally realized that God was for them, they were able to have patience. Like we talked about Job earlier in the confession. The story of Job, I think, it's about a guy who stops trying to justify himself and he finally relies on God. Or the story of Abraham, where he stops worshiping the promise of God and actually trusts that God will keep his promises. The story of Paul is one where this man in complete self-righteousness actually hunts and kills God's followers. But he comes to realize that he discovers true contentment in God's love. Or the story of Moses, where he's out in the wilderness and he's so frustrated at everything that he hits a rock, right? But he discovers that God will never leave them or forsake them. And we as Christians, I think we have Peter's story all around us, where we realize the Messiah doesn't come from our correct answers or our zealous acts of faith, but the Messiah comes to us through love and sacrifice so that we all might be saved. Not by our own self-righteousness, but we are actually saved from our own self-righteousness. Just as the angel says to Daniel, you are highly loved. So as an ending here, so we gather week after week. We gather 7 after 7, right? Knowing that in whatever mess you find yourself in, God is mercy and God is faithful and just, that you are loved and Jesus has come and he's died for you and risen for you. And someday, maybe this afternoon, maybe in 100 years from now, maybe in 70 times 7 years from now. But in the meantime, you're loved. You are not forgotten about. And so we come together, confess our sins, and declare God's love for us and our love for all mankind around us. God loves you, and he'll never leave you or forsake you. And that's good news, and we'll end right there.